Sony, you got some splaining to do. Hey everyone, this is D, Movieman, fellow cinephile, popcorn addict, and emerging film critic, coming to you with reliable recaps, reviews, and reactions. And today I'm coming to you all with a review for Morbius, directed by Daniel Espinosa and starring Jared Leto, Matt Smith, and Adria Arjona. Story-wise, the film is centered around Dr. Michael Morbius, a biochemist who attempts to cure himself of a rare blood disease, but in doing so, inadvertently transforms himself into something more voracious, to say the least. So, I'm going to start with the pros. Yes, there are pros. So for starters, I do have really fond memories of watching Morbius on Spider-Man the Animated Series on Fox Kids when I was very, very young. I was slightly creeped out with the character, but I also thought he was pretty cool. And to an extent, I do appreciate the way in which this film and this story is attempting to explore that. I do think there are some really fun and some really cool moments as we explore Morbius, as we get into the dynamics of his character and his abilities and all of that. I also love the way the city was shot. Now, naturally, this is meant to be New York City, but the film primarily was shot in London and Manchester's Northern Quarter. I thought all of the shots that we got of the city, I thought they were so picturesque. I loved all the shots we got of the cityscape and the skyscrapers, and whenever that aspect was the focus or whenever it was on screen, I really, really appreciated that. It really stood out to me. I do think that Jared Leto and Matt Smith and Adria Arjona are all fairly talented, and it was nice to see their characters interact and to see a little bit of the chemistry that they did have whenever they were on screen together. I also thought the opening and ending credit sequence was really well done. That's something that always stands out to me, whether it's a movie or a TV show, and I thought that was something that just really caught my attention. It was really well done. Alright, now I'm going to jump over to the cons. Let's just get right on into it. Now, let me make it very clear. I will always give Sony Pictures their kudos for helping redefine the modern superhero genre and the summer blockbuster with Spider-Man in 2002, and then taking that to the next level with Spider-Man 2 in 2004. Nobody, and I do mean nobody, can take that away from them. And if I'm going to be really honest, much like Blade, which also doesn't get enough credit, I think a lot of what we are seeing today with the MCU and superhero films in general would not really be possible were it not for Blade and then Spider-Man. And I also have to give them credit for 2018's Into the Spider-Verse. That was a top-notch film. I think that had like universal acclaim. And in its own way, it helped really open up this whole idea of the multiverse and these different characters appearing and connecting. And the fact that we're even seeing that now with No Way Home and then the Multiverse of Madness, in its own way, they really deserve their credit for helping introduce all of that with this film. With that being said, someone needs to tell Sony Pictures that although the early 2000s were a great time, I have plenty of fond memories myself. It is time to move into the future and embrace the here and now and have some conversations, have some meetings, have a come to Jesus moment, and maybe it's time to completely retool everything. Because it makes absolutely no sense that a film like this that was made in 2019 should feel like a comic book film that was made in the early 2000s. And I'm not kidding about that. It's almost hurtful, almost physically painful to watch talented people like Jared Leto and Matt Smith star in something that's so... what is the word I'm looking for? Oh, dumb. What frustrates me about this the most is that it didn't have to be a perfect film by any means. It's not like I even went in expecting it to be. I mean, I know how to lower my expectations, and that's basically what I did. I was like, hey, I'm here to have a good time. I'm taking it for what it is. It's all good. And like I said in my pros, I can really see the glimpses of where this could have really been great. I will never forget watching the first trailer for this film back in early 2020 and showing it to my mom and showing it to my friends. And we all pretty much agreed, like, hey, this looks like a good time. This might be a pretty solid film. I've also said before that when I watched the first Venom movie, I knew that it wasn't great or good necessarily, but was I entertained by it? Absolutely. I can't quite say the same about the unmitigated disaster that was the sequel, but that's besides the point. So, with that being said, another significant issue that I had with this film is that despite everything that's happening and going on, it's pretty bland and very boring to watch. Unfortunately, it is a very flat film experience. There were never any moments where I was like fully engaged or enthralled or totally like into what was happening. Like it just felt very like, okay, just like every possible story beat I totally predicted and just I don't know. It just was not done in a way that made me anywhere near invested in what was going to happen. I also think the one piece that we need in this film to really identify with Morbius and his journey and eventual transformation is not really handled well either. That whole piece is pretty much rushed. We don't even see him acclimating to that process. Like, we see little moments here and there, but we don't get to really see the weight of this experience and how it affects him. We don't even really get into the dynamics of how scientifically this all goes wrong. Yes, I know that it has to do with the vampirism gene as it relates to bats, but why exactly did it affect his body in that way? And what went wrong specifically, and just kind of not getting a chance to really delve deeper into that, even from a scientific perspective, I think was a wasted opportunity. And rather than take the time to see Morbius dealing with his new reality, we have to force in this completely unnecessary subplot with these two goober detectives played by Madrigal and Tyrese Gibson. I'm sorry, I did not enjoy that at all. Whoo, and this writing. Let me tell you about it. Our screenwriters here are Matt Sazama and Burk Sharpless, who are best known for writing films together like Dracula Untold, The Last Witch Hunter, Gods of Egypt, and Power Rangers. Knowing nothing about the writers or the creative team in general, I literally told my mom on the way home, something about this story feels like a really low budget, great value version of Dracula Untold. And apparently, I was not far off base. I will give them credit because I did feel like there was a lot of depth and a lot of nuance in the story and in the writing for Dracula Untold, which is part of the reason why I enjoyed it so much. Yeah, I can't say the same here. The CGI in this film. So listen, I've said plenty of times that I can take or leave CGI, but that I can go with the flow and I try not to be too hard on it and, just take it for what it is and keep on going from there. But, save for a few moments, the CGI in this film, absolutely atrocious. There were so many moments where I was looking at the screen like, there were moments where I literally wondered, did someone borrow some old graphics from some old PlayStation games? I know Sony and PlayStation are affiliated, so I was like, it might be possible. Because there was no other explanation for how horrible it looked. There are no words. It was so bad. It is astonishing to me that we can have a film like The Invisible Man that was made for $7 million and a film like Love and Monsters that was made for $30 million, and that both of those films can look the way they do and have the effects that they do. And then you have a film like this that was made for $70 $5 million that looks like this. I'm confused. This next piece is either a pro or a con, depending on how you look at it. There is an actual scene in this film that feels like it's an homage to Peter's dance break in Spider-Man 3. I kid you not. I'll just leave that right where it is. I have to say that most of the fight scenes gave me a headache and a little bit of motion sickness as well. I get what we were going for, but the whole shaky cam, chaotic, all over the place, it didn't work for me, and I'll leave it at that. Lastly, I've come to the realization that Venom, Venom 2, and now Morbius are structurally the same movie. Potential spoilers if you haven't seen any of these films. We have a character that has something to prove or is trying to change something for the better, but is in dire circumstances. And in their attempt to accomplish said goal, they end up undergoing an unexpected transformation. Then we have an antagonist that undergoes a similar transformation and becomes a more powerful, intense version of the main character with their powers. There's a female character that has a complicated relationship with the main character and eventually, at some point, also takes on the same transformation. And of course, we close things out with a massive CGI blowout fight at the end of the film. Almost literally the same story beats from film to film.
Well, that's just lazy writing.
So, I'm going to give Morbius a D. I am sure plenty of people will find enjoyment in this film, and more power to them. But as for me, I thought this was such a waste of resources, of talent, and just potential overall. And after watching this, I am very confused and I am very unclear as far as what my response is supposed to be to the two mid-credit sequences that we see once the film is over. And on top of that, if I am supposed to believe that after watching this film and Venom 2, that Sony Pictures has the ability, or that anyone should have the faith to believe that Sony Pictures could potentially continue the Amazing Spider-Man series with Andrew Garfield, my response to that is...
Ew to the nah, to the nah, nah, nah.
Morbius. It's currently playing in theaters. You guys feel free to check it out, leave your thoughts below, and let me know what you think. So, once again, this is D, Movieman, signing off, and I'll see you at the movies.